Hello, everyone. So you may have noticed, if you've been to the bar, and there are leopard print bottles, there are Paisley bottles, and there are metallic bottles. And so I've been doing some trend talks yesterday and over the coming days about these different trends. And right now, I'm going to talk to you about Paisley. So, the new Oxford Dictionary defines Paisley as a distinctive, intricate pattern of curved, feather-shaped figures based on a pine cone design from India. So, I'm sure you're all familiar with what the Paisley pattern looks like, but there's a picture if not. There are kind of all sorts of ideas of what it's supposed to represent. Some people say it's a pine cone, some people say it's a seed germinating, and it's supposed to be all about fertility and all sorts of things. Everything seems to get boiled down to fertility eventually, but that's what it's defined as in the dictionary. And it actually comes from India, but it wasn't called Paisley then. So that's kind of a really, really old picture of like some of the first supposedly what we now call Paisley designs. But the name Paisley didn't come until production of shawls started in a place called Paisley in Scotland. So originally in India, there were the Paisley pattern was seen on silk shawls that cost an absolute fortune, and the East India Company imported these into the UK, and if you could afford one, you were like, that's like having the top Gucci handbag, and it did mean a huge amount. And then people started producing them in Scotland simply to cut down on cost, but they were still very expensive, still very high status, because they were made from silk threads. But then the Napoleonic War, without wanting to get too historical with you all today whilst you're enjoying wine in the bar, was actually kind of a big deal to Paisley, the place, as producers of Paisley scarves, because silk thread was no longer being imported. Whilst we're at war with France, we're not doing international trade, and more people are making things at home. So people realized we couldn't keep making these Paisley scarves with this very expensive silk thread, and that's actually when cotton thread first essentially got made, again in Paisley, and now we're probably all wearing something made of cotton here today. And so it became something that could be relatively cheap. Everyone wore it, including women. But then in about the 1870s, women stopped wearing Paisley. It just became something that wasn't really cool anymore. Although Jessie J is wearing Paisley here in 2012. By now, it's kind of cool again for women to wear it. But for a long time, it was a male kind of print. And when it came big again in the UK was in the 60s, when the Beatles went back to India, well, not back to India, they're not from India, but went to India, and they kind of brought back the whole Indian kind of hippie vibe, and Paisley print got huge again, and it swept Carnaby Street like nobody's business. John Lennon even had his Rolls Royce decorated in Paisley print. And women, again, started wearing it in the 60s, but it was still very much a male trend, really, and I'm sure kind of everyone here who's got husbands, fathers, will probably own a Paisley tie, Paisley pajamas, Paisley smoking jackets. Kind of handkerchiefs and scarves and those kind of silk products have never been out of fashion for men. But recently, and something I'm very excited about because I love the Paisley print, at London Fashion Week, we've just seen Paisley kind of coming back onto the catwalk for women. And I report from London and New York Fashion Week and have done for the last 5 or 6 seasons. And it was really exciting to see J.W. Anderson and Jonathan Saunders, who are both fantastic British designers, who both do menswear as well. They were bringing Paisley print into women's wear. And now this has already trickled through to the high street. And something that's really interesting, and a lot of people don't necessarily realise with Fashion Week, kind of high-end designer catwalk fashion, is that the high street can often get the trends that you see on the catwalk can often be on the high street before the designers even had a chance to sell them in their own stores. So Burberry had a coat that quite famously Primark got into stores before Burberry ever had it into the store, even though it was the Burberry design. And that's simply because the high street stores can produce cheap stuff so quickly, much quicker than the designers can. The designers send concept garments down the catwalk, and the high street can just rip them off straight away, basically. But that's good for us if we want to get a £30 dress. So Topshop is full of Paisley at the moment. And if you go onto What I Wore Today, there's loads of Paisley kind of items from Topshop that we're lusting over at the moment. If you type Paisley and there's pages and pages of it at Topshop. These boots by boohoo.com are £35. Obviously kind of nicked the design idea from Jeffrey Campbell, but if you want to go for that like Paisley hippie chick look, they're really nice. ASOS have loads of Paisley in as well. And then obviously we have Paisley at the bar here. And then lastly, something that we've seen a lot of on What I Wore Today is people uploading Paisley nails. Now, it's not something I'm ever going to be able to master to do myself, and it's not something anyone's going to want to do after a few glasses of wine or necessarily tackle their right hand with if they're right-handed, but it's apparently quite easy to do. There are loads of tutorials on YouTube just with nail art pens. I think it looks really pretty in the blue and white. And they do have, I know Model Zone are selling their nail art pens. I think Bear AM are here. So if you're into that and want to have a go, then it seems to be a very trendy thing to do at the moment, but you just need to be a bit less shaky. And then these are my details. If you want to go onto WIWT.com, you can upload photos of what you're wearing here at Clothes Show, and you can also see some of the best Paisley items that we're suggesting you buy for this season. And you can also ask any questions on Twitter if you want any tips for some of the best Paisley things on the high street or the more high-end designs. There are plenty of £600 skirts I can recommend if that's what you're after as well. Thank you.